Yo, what up, everybody? Paul Hickey here with NoOffseason.com. I am the host of the Sports Card Strategy Show. This is the Basketball Card Strategy Show. It's a special day. We've got Gary from hoopsandcards.com and the Hoops and Cards pod with us. My main man, Gary, and I today are going to talk about several things, so we hope you tune into the whole show. Gary wants to talk about playoffs and sell-offs, which I love. This will be NBA players to watch for, playoff pops, and guys to sell now before the season ends. That is a great way, Gary, to categorize those two different types of sports cards. Also, which stars are rising now that we should add to our off-season shopping list? I freaking love that as well because there is no off-season, so we should be shopping in the off.
Right.
So we're going to talk about those guys. And then Gary has a couple special players that he wants to talk about. Mr. Julius Randle had a big game last night. And then there's a guy, I'll give you a little teaser. We'll talk about him later. There is a guy that Gary thinks is the best investment out of the last 3 rookie classes. So stay tuned for who that young man is. I'm excited to talk to Gary today. And then I've got in my show prep, last week I was on vacation. I was up in Michigan with my family, as many listeners already know, because I've talked about it several times, and I did a show from Michigan. But I would get bored from time to time because there'd be downtime, but I couldn't sneak away on my computer. But I'd look around the room and I'd be like, everyone's on their phone right now. It's a good opportunity for me to shop for some cards. So as I was shopping for some cards, I came up with a play that I want to talk about on the Basketball Card Strategy Show later in this episode that I think everybody out there can make money. And that is the purpose. Of course, it's fun to listen to us, but the purpose of this show is to help you make money flipping basketball cards. So without further ado, Gary from Hoops and Cards, how you doing, my main man?
What's up, Paul? Hey, doing great. It is great to see you. Great to be with you again and to talk basketball at the time of year when, hey, not just March Madness in the tournament, but March Madness in the Western Conference, 7 teams fighting for a couple spots and big games every night. I can't believe what Julius Randle did last night. The Bulls and Sixers going to double overtime. Seems like there's always something big happening or some bad news happening, like with a guy like Anthony Edwards going down or different changes in lineups. So yeah, man, it is a great time to talk about how that impacts the card market. And I'm just excited to be with you again, bro. So thanks.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, you're looking good. You got the Hoops and Cards backdrop. I'm going to have to check out one of those virtual backgrounds. For those of you listening on Spotify and Apple, Gary's got a great Hoops and Cards virtual background. And I might have to build one for no off season. But anyway, I am happy to be here with you. Great overview of including Anthony Edwards. Hopefully he is just day to day. That's what they say. And I'm hoping that he is. We'll see if he can bounce back from this injury and continue to try to help the Timberwolves get to the playoffs. But yeah, it is March Madness in the NBA as well as in the NCAA. So, all right, that point, you're talking about Western Conference teams vying for playoff spots. Who are some guys that you want to talk about related to players to watch for whose value could spike during the playoffs? Because it's a bit of a risky proposition to buy on and try to monetize during the playoffs, but it can be done. And you're very good at doing it. So who are some of the guys you want to throw out there for the listeners to look for?
Yeah. It's an exciting time of look at the NBA season, really the playoffs. So May and early June with the finals, those are the times when players have epic performances. Somebody steps up and takes their team further than they've ever been, or drops 40 a night, wins their first title, like Giannis a couple years ago. There's going to be some historic achievements or performances that the card market will react to. I mean, it could even be, I remember a couple years ago, if you remember the Clippers making a run and Terrence Mann had 2 big games because Kawhi was out, and Terrence Mann had a game where he dropped 30 points. And all of a sudden, I mean, I went to eBay and At the time, it was Star Stock, and Terrence Mann cards were selling like crazy. Well, this is a time when people not only watching the NBA, but card sharks, collectors, investors, snipers like you guys, we're doing what you said you did with your family. We're going on our phones and like, oh, maybe I should buy a Terrence Mann. Oh, maybe I should get some Giannis before everybody else does in the next 24 hours. So yeah, there's some great opportunities there coming up for the playoffs. We just did an episode just dropped this morning about the Western Conference going through bubble teams like Dallas, Lakers. Oklahoma City is even in the mix now. I can't even. Oklahoma City is not tanking for once, and I love that. So what I'm going to do, Paul, to answer your question is to say, yeah, it is a risky proposition right now to say buy anything because it's your money, and we've been in a market that's been trending downward for quite a while. Unless you get in on a guy like Larry Markkinen or Mikal Bridges before everybody else does. It's risky. It is a risky time. And so I've been focusing my energy on big names that I know are going to be relevant in May and getting cards of theirs that are PSA 10 or more frequently bought and sold. So base rookie 10s of Joel Embiid, base rookie 10s of Nikola Jokic, base rookie 10s or silver of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. In fact, he's the guy that I think has the most to gain over the next 3 weeks. And when Oklahoma City does what they did 2 nights ago, goes into Phoenix, and there's a shootout between SGA and Devin Booker, and Booker doesn't win because big shot Kevin Durant is on the court. Oklahoma City and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai looks really good to me as a guy with upside, the potential to do some things he's never done before at a team that they haven't had it in a while. So I like him a lot, partially because, look, I can buy his cards and say, hey, if he has a big playoff series in May, great. That would be a short-term selling opportunity. If he doesn't, I still got some Shai Gilgeous again before his star rises and takes him to the playoffs for the first time. So I like him a lot. Does that answer your question? Like guys that let him zeroing in on are mostly names you already know. There's a few hidden gems, or there's a few guys that are stepping into the spotlight. But for the most part, I'm focusing on the big guys, Joel Embiid, Giannis. I think Jaylen Brown has added his name to that list of he's nobody's sidekick. It's like 1 and 1A, and I'm not always sure which one Tatum is. Like Jaylen Brown is awesome and a bargain in comparison. So there are a lot of big names of teams that are in the top 4 that I like right now. That I would just say, hey, look, if you're looking to buy before everybody else does, whether you decide to sell in a month or not, that's your decision. These might be players that are, how many years from now is Joel Embiid going to be relevant? I think many years. We're going to be watching the Joker. We're going to be watching Giannis. We're going to be watching Luka in the playoffs. So. Yeah,
you nailed it, man. I totally agree, and I just want to underscore your point real quick for the audience. Mm-hmm. What Gary just said about SGA is spot on, and Embiid and Jokic. But the point is, this is why I love sports card flipping and investing more than sports betting or fantasy sports. It's because if Shai, like you're making a bet on Shai being good in general in his career by buying his card, and you're not only putting money on a particular run this year. So while it is risky if you feel like you are making the play and you have to sell regardless of how the Thunder do in May, for example. If you can hold the card, if you're in a position where you can buy and hold the card, then there should be many opportunities to monetize that play, even if SGA and the Thunder don't make it far, even if his card prices don't spike, even if we hope this doesn't happen, but even if he gets injured, right? He still hopefully in October can see a value spike based on the hype cycle of the start of the next NBA season. And who knows, he could end up being one of the top 5 players in the league someday, and then you've got his card. So I think you totally nailed it. And then, of course, I personally learned a lesson a few years back buying guys like Jamal Murray, buying guys like Grayson Allen, just trying to go like super, super sleeper level. Whereas you just said Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, like MVP candidates.
Right.
My guy Giannis, right? Like I think that still is the play. I mean, even Darius Garland, as much as I loved him and as much as I love him, not past tense, I still do love him. I think that I even learned a little bit of a lesson because while we may have helped some people make money on Darius Garland, the reality is that like it was a deeper sleeper call. And when you have a guy like Donovan Mitchell come into town, like I think that has affected Darius's card prices in a bit of a negative way. And so maybe even a guy like an all-star can be a little bit too big of a sleeper, too big of a risk. Like too many things might have to happen for their card prices to move. Whereas not that many things have to happen for the guys that you named, Giannis, Embiid, Jokic, SGA. I love those calls. Those are awesome. So yeah, I mean, without getting into too many more, it seems like those are your playoffs. Who are your, and I'm sure that there's guys out there and feel free to drop a comment if you have a question on any guys like Luka, like Anthony Edwards, like other big names, like Gary mentioned Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. What about like De'Aaron Fox, Steph Curry, Ja Morant? What about Ja Morant? There's a lot going on with him. So if you want to comment on any of those guys, Gary, feel free, or if you want to go into your sell-offs, I'd love to hear who you're thinking like maybe has peaked this season and people should move on from right now.
Well, let me I love what you said a minute ago about the card market being better than betting, or what was the other one? Fantasy sports or something.
Fantasy.
Like, yeah, I have Ja Morant cards and I'm glad I have them. Has it been a strange couple of weeks with Ja? Yeah, it could. But at the same time, I love watching the guy play. He's going to be back. Is it an indicator of some issues he might have long-term? Maybe. Okay. But I also think this could be a wake-up call in his life. And he has a chance to be one of the impact players of his generation. And he's proven that on the court. So all that to say that it's great that you can buy and sell when you want, but buy players that you enjoy. There's a lot of options here that we're going to talk about today. There are guys that I have avoided, not because their cards aren't a great investment, but because maybe just being in the East, living in the East, I don't see the Western Conference teams play as much. So I've missed out on the De'Aaron Fox card market so far, but I do think, man, Sacramento looks for real. They're well coached. They're balanced. These aren't like rookies hitting a run. These are some vets that know what they're doing. And so they're going to be fun to watch. They're going to surprise some people. Players that have spent most of the regular season doing load management and protecting their brand and fighting with teammates and ripping Dylan Brooks in the media. Like these guys got to start paying attention to what they're actually doing on the court. Because teams like Memphis and Sacramento, even Oklahoma City, they are for real. So yeah, I think to your question about sell-offs, right now in March, we've got 10 games left in the season for a lot of these teams, and some of them are about to slide into cardboard irrelevance. They're about to slide into the offseason with not so much as a whimper, and these teams that maybe they're in the Victor Wembanyama, you're not going to like this, Paul, you're a Detroit guy.
Let's go Pistons, get Victor.
Like sell Jaden Ivey now while you've got an auto and he drops 30 tomorrow night. Sell. Why? Not because you hate Jaden Ivey, but because he's going to be a better buy in 8 weeks or in 6 months when it's the off season and nobody's thinking about Jaden Ivey, but you know what you have. Like, you know how good he is. Cade Cunningham. Some of these guys I'm going to mention are injured or there's uncertainty tied to where they're at and what they're doing. And, so Cade, LaMelo, I'm glad Anthony Edwards is coming back. That's a relief. But there's a lot of those kinds of players where I'm like, this guy won't matter in the card market for, I don't know how long. Like, when will Zion matter again? I don't know. Like, I'm rooting for all these guys and I'm invested in some of them, but you have to think, like you said, there's short-term gains to be won or losses to be avoided. I think when you're talking about a sell-off, I'm going to help you minimize your losses because you're going to look at a player who right now is obviously not going to be in the playoffs. Look at the bottom 4 teams in each conference. They're not going to the playoffs. What will those cards be worth in 5 months? And the answer is a lot less than they are now. Even if you don't like what they're worth now, I'm sure you don't with your Cades or your Zions, but in 4 months, it's going to be worse. People are going to be putting their money into Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Shohei Ohtani. And if they're buying stuff in the offseason, it's going to be, potentially the new drops of the Paolo rookies or the Victor Wembanyama rookie. Like, they're going to be buying the next new thing, the bright and shiny thing. So Cade, LaMelo, you might love them, but you might sell now.
That's interesting. I think you make a good point, because like 4 months from now is July, but 5 months from now is August, which I think August is probably even going to be worse, right? So I think it depends on your patience level. Meaning, if you can wait till October, that I would recommend, like, if with Cade and LaMelo, for me personally, I'm going to hold my Cades and LaMelos till October. And then I think that will be a better time to sell. But I agree that, like, if you've been holding these guys already for a while and you need the money and you want to, I like how you said, minimize your losses. That's a great way to put it. You need to minimize your losses. And so the other point that you made that I want to underscore is the types of cards that you're buying for these guys. So back to the guys that you were buying for the playoffs real quick. You mentioned liquid cards, meaning like they're PSA 10s of like commonly traded cards. So whether it be their Prism or their Optic or, something similar to that, easy to understand, easy to buy, easy to sell. I think that is a smart play for a quick flip. And I think but my question to you is, if you're going to go a little bit deeper and say buy a guy like on a team like the Kings, like if you're going to, like, I'm not saying to do this, but I'm saying people are out there looking at these plays. Like if you wanted to buy a Domantas Sabonis card, for example, I've done some research into Sabonis over the last couple of years in his cards. He is a guy that could fit the category of having a huge playoff game. And that would honestly be the only time that his cards would be worth anything. So if you have like high risk tolerance and you want to go kind of for lightning in a bottle, he could be a guy to look at. But then the question would be, what card would you buy of his? And again, I'm not saying to do this, but would you still go with what you're saying, like a Prism PSA 10 that's cheaper and easier to sell? Or would you go with like a higher end Sabonis card? Because I would think even a Sabonis auto would be pretty affordable with a potential higher upside. And the reason I bring this up is because this is kind of what I did with Cam Thomas, where I bought his contenders autos instead of his base stuff. It's much higher risk though. And I'm not saying to do this, but I know, again, the people with the higher risk tolerance that are really into hoops and NBA playoffs might want to take a little bit of a chance. Do you suggest any of that, or do you avoid that completely?
I love that there are different entry points. I love that there are options. And you're right, the cheaper, more well-known option for Sabonis might be the Prism PSA 10 base rookie, or the Optic, because that's the first year of Optic 2016, PSA 10 base rookie. Personally, if it's a player I like more and I want to invest a little bit more, I might look for the silver or the hollow. But you're right, the autograph cards, if I'm going to get an autograph of those players, it either needs to be a numbered higher end type of card in great shape, or it needs to be an autograph card of a brand that people are going to be searching for frequently. I have to think about the sale. If I'm thinking as an investor, I'm not a Sabonis fan, so I'm not like, I'm not tracking the Kings box scores every night or, betting on Sabonis triple doubles. But if I think about it as an investment, I have to think, well, who's going to buy in a month? Who's going to buy when they're in a playoff series against who? The Clippers? I don't know. They're in a playoff series and Sabonis has a triple double in a home game and the Kings win. Could that happen? Absolutely. Would that be a blast? Will people go online and buy Sabonis cards? Probably. I think De'Aaron Fox is a bit more explosive and a bit more attractive as a just fun player to watch. But to your point, there are various entry points. I absolutely love that. And there's some now, and there will be some in 3 or 4 weeks as the playoff starts. I wanted to say a guy's name who I have missed out on in the last 3 weeks. And it's been a little frustrating because it's this buying strategy of PSA 10s, of popular brands, of cards of a player that's going deep in the playoffs, who's going to make an impact. And it's Chris Middleton. And like 3 weeks ago, I could have gone and I had him in my watch list. PSA 10 Chris Middleton Prism rookies from 2012 for $49. You can go on your like sold items right now on eBay and see a few of his PSA 10s that sold for $49. And we're talking about a 3 or 4 time All-Star who's about to go to the finals again. Like Milwaukee has the best record in the NBA by 4 or 5 games right now. Like Chris Middleton is back, and the games that he's not putting up 20, he's getting 11 assists. So is he going to have some big games in May and June? I think it's very likely that Chris Middleton plays a factor in the Bucks' return to the finals. And so all I have to say, like, if you go online now at eBay, I'm just using them as an example, and try to find a Chris Middleton PSA 10 card. I went online an hour ago and I'm like, there's only 2 or 3 left that are under $150. And one was 110, one's 105, one's $99 and has like 26 watchers. So either somebody's been trying to buy it and the seller is, traveling the world and turned off their eBay store, or there's a bunch of people sending him offers and trying to get it for 50 or 60. He's like, nope, this is Chris Middleton. So I missed the boat on buying like 4 or 5 cards in the 50 range, 4 or 5 cards in the 75 range. That card has at least doubled in value in the last month with a very predictable return from injury. Chris Middleton's a 10-year vet, and now he's playoff relevant, and they're going to go deep. Another guy that I'm thinking that way about, and I'm like afraid to go look at the comps because I missed the boat on Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's playing like an MVP. The Clippers look like they could run deep. They've got a great coach. It's Kawhi Leonard. Like, why are PSA 10s of Kawhi? Why are PSA 9s of Kawhi Leonard's rookie even affordable anymore? So yeah, there are players that these are the guys I'm talking about. Where is it a risk to bet on Kawhi Leonard? No. Anybody could get injured, but it's Kawhi Leonard. It's Chris Middleton and the Milwaukee Bucks. So I try to lean towards and do I enjoy watching those guys play? Yeah. I try to lean towards guys that are big names that top 3 or 4 in their conference. So Jaylen Brown, I still love. I've got some Jaylen Browns in my watch list that I don't want to tell you which cards they are because Paul, you're probably going to go buy them.
Sniped.
He's awesome. He's got the whole Batman thing going with this mask, and he's just a blast to watch. Jaylen Brown's clutch, and I could see him having some major performances in May. So a lot of guys to think that way about.
This is great stuff, Gary, from Hoops and Cards. Check out hoopsandcards.com and the Hoops and Cards podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Gary is dropping the knowledge here on the Basketball Card Strategy Show. Everybody, I'd like to go into the comments and say hello to Oh My Shoes. Oh My Shoes.
Yes, sir.
Loyal audience member of the Sports Card Strategy Show and supporter of nooffseason.com. We appreciate you, Oh My Shoes. And on yesterday's Sports Card Strategy Show, we talked about Oh My Shoes' play of buying so Shoes admittedly emailed me and said he missed out on the Victor Wembanyama cards that I had been shouting from the rooftops about, and I submitted 12 of them to PSA.
Oh, dude.
We'll see how those do.
I flipped them, and I wish I had kept them. I probably should have kept them.
And I don't know where you got your mags, Gary. We can come back around to that. But Shoes got 7 Drew Timmy cards for $2 to $3 a piece, and he's sending them off to PSA. So we're hoping the second round draft projection of Drew Timmy. My thought is maybe he has a big summer league game or 2, and then Shoes can make some money off that play, but we'll see. But also to where we wanted to go next is stars on the rise, right? So Shoes just sold some Paolo Banchero rookies from the Hoops set. Did pretty well on those. Congrats.
Smart. And
yeah, I agree. And just wanted to say hello to Ziggy. What up, Ziggy? Good to see you in the chat. And I think he's commenting on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in terms of the Batman and Robin 1A, 1B situation. One thing real quick, Gary, before I'll give you a chance to think a little bit longer on the rising stars, but I wanted to pull up something real quick on Jaylen Brown, because I saw a Jaylen Brown HGA HGA95 for sale. And if I can pull it up. And what I'm wondering is, what is the HGA95? Here it is right here. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. For those of you listening on Apple and Spotify, I'm sharing a Jaylen Brown HGA95, corners 10, surface 9.5, edges 9.5, centering 9.5. And this is a 2016 Panini Donruss rookie. So it's just a base rookie. There's 13 hours left in this auction. There's 8 bids. It's currently at $11.50. So what I'm wondering is, if we go to our friendly neighborhood sportscardinvestor.com website, and then we check out this same Donruss Jaylen Brown card. Give me a second to get there. I want to know what this card sells for in a PSA 10. I'm going to get to the wrong card first, so just bear with me. But what I do is I want to find what the HGA 9.5 with the high subgrades sells for in a PSA 10. And I'm only finding the optic here. So here's the Donruss. And so in a PSA 10, it last sold for $55. So what might not be a bad play is if you can get this. I don't know what this auction is going to end for, but to Gary's point with Jaylen Brown, he likes Jaylen Brown in general. So you could just go buy a PSA 10, or you could try to go for like an HGA 9.5 or like a SGC 9.5 that could crack and sub for a PSA 10. Do it for the $19 submission if you can include it in a bulk value submission. And like, for example, if you could get this Jaylen Brown for $20, it's a $20 submission. It should come back as a PSA 10 if you crack it and don't ruin the card while you're cracking it. And then now you're looking at, okay, well, it last sold for $55. So that's not going to be a huge profit margin. That's going to be like a wash. But my point is, if Jaylen Brown does what Gary thinks he's going to do in the playoffs, potentially, now you're in a situation where you've saved a few bucks on a Jaylen Brown PSA 10, and hopefully it increases during the playoffs. So that's not always going to work. You're not always going to leave yourself profit margin there, but I was just curious what this Jaylen Brown HGA 9.5 could go for, because again, if you can get it for, it's at $11.50 with 13 hours left, it's going to go up, of course. But if it stays like under $20, $25, that's half the price of a PSA 10, and it's a gem mint card. So just an interesting play there, I think. Brett Hartman, new name to the show. Thanks for watching and listening. Glad
What's up, Brett?
Comment. Good to see you. He says Drew Timmy equals Frank Kaminsky. Built to be a great player, but not the NBA. That's why I think that Shoes' play is dependent on a big summer league.
Yeah,
Chad Gill, analyst, former audience member turned analyst. Good to see you, Chad. We've been so Gary. Chad wants to come on your show. And I think you should have him on, because he's been doing an amazing job on the Sports Card Strategy show with his flip to fund your PC.
Yeah.
Hot take for Gary. I think Sabonis is a better player than Jokic. Now his cards aren't worth anywhere near as much, but give me Sabonis. Interesting.
A better player or a better investment because he's got more ahead of him? Like,
maybe it's a better investment. Chad, you might have to clarify this next time you're on the show, Chad.
Maybe are you in Sacramento, Chad? What's going on?
I don't know where Chad is, actually. He says that better player than Jokic, but plays in a different system. His cards aren't worth anywhere near as much, but give me Sabonis. So Chad's looking at like a buy low situation, which I don't hate. Although I do think that a player like Jokic isn't going to have to do as much to see a return, of course. Whereas like a player like Sabonis, to get a return on his cards, he's going to have like some huge moments, I believe. So,
well, can I make a comment about Sabonis and your Jaylen Brown card you just put up there?
Yeah, go for it.
That is a buying or flipping opportunity that most people don't realize, but I kind of stumbled onto about 6 weeks ago with Jason Tatum. Any of the Donruss cards, like you had the Donruss, just the base Jaylen Brown Donruss rookie card, right? You have before 2018, a lot of decent rookies that maybe their paper Donruss card is still very affordable, but very hard to grade. Like if you've got a raw, say you've got a raw Jaylen Brown card, it is super hard to get a paper Donruss card to get anything like a 9 or higher. It's super hard. I unfortunately have done that and had 2 cards that looked identical for me. One came back as a 10, one came back as a 6. I'm like, I don't know how to grade paper. But when I find a card that's already a PSA 10, so here's what happened to me. I was researching different Jason Tatum plays, different Jason Tatum buys on that Market Movers app and on eBay, and I noticed that the Jason Tatum PSA 10, just the Donruss base, some people were buying it in January for $60, $70, $80 PSA 10 Tatum. Because someone goes on, they think, well, it's just Donruss, it's not optic, so I'm going to list it for 75. Boom, it sells. And then mixed in with those comps, people were buying and selling it for 160, 150. And I'm like, there's that big a range on a Donruss paper 10 of Tatum? Yeah. So I went in and I bought I bought 2 of them at the $70 range. Like I send in an offer or whatever. All that to say, people don't realize right now how scarce a 10 of some of these cards is in comparison with like the optic or the prism or whatever. And even and because of that, I think the PSA 10s of a Sabonis 2016 Donruss, just a Donruss base, are going to be a little bit harder to find because they don't grade as well. And a lot of people weren't sending in their Sabonis rookies, back then. Another card that I found that with is if you take the Joker or Joel Embiid, how they've got the regular rated rookie cards from their years. Great, those are popular. But the ones that are starting to surge now are that subset called the rookies. Mm-hmm. Like if you search for the Joker, the rookies, you can find both base raw or base PSA 10s have a range. Like the raw you could buy online of a Joker between, this is insane to me, between $15 and $75 for the same card raw. Well, you have the same kind of range when it comes to the graded card of a 9 or a 10. And those cards, like I don't know if you have your Market Movers app, Paul, but like the pop count on a Joker PSA 10 Donruss rated rookie is very low. Same with Embiid. So I see a buying opportunity for those 2 MVP candidates. We can argue about them for the next 3 weeks, and we probably will, but they're the top 2, I think. And their rookie cards are hard to grade, harder to find in the Donruss, and low pop count. You're looking up
here it is right here. So
low pop
Nikola Jokic 2015 Donruss base PSA 10 pop 321. Mm-hmm. So that is a great drop by Gary for sure. Great knowledge. And
it's crazy how scarce, like in comparison to a PSA 10 of Luka Doncic or Ja Morant. Like it's not like these were 20 years ago. It's just 3 years before that.
Yeah, and the 2016 one that we showed of Jaylen Brown a minute ago, BD Bear Bandit in the comments here. Thanks for the comment, BD Bear Bandit. Appreciate you.
I think that's Brett. Is that Brett? I think that's Brett from our
Discord. Is he one of your guys?
Yeah.
Love it.
Love him.
Love it. All right. So Brett, if that's you, thanks for watching the Basketball Card Strategy Show and commenting. He says too many chances for whiting on the edges of those cards.
Right.
The colored borders. It's brutal. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, it is, Brett.
Oh, can I like my head exploded when I think about the same possibility I mentioned about he talked about the colored borders on some of the Donruss rated rookies. A De'Aaron Fox PSA 10 Donruss base right now, $40 or less.
Yeah.
Is that guy on the rise?
Great opportunities to go get these cards and then flip them. And also to Chad Gill's point, who was kind of the inspiration behind this cracking and submitting of these SGC 9.5s, HGA 9.5s, etc., is to look at, okay, is the 2016 set, for example, instead of going and getting the PSA 10, to my point a minute ago, can you get a price break on the HGA 9.5 with high subgrades or the SGC 9.5 that looks like it could be a PSA 10? Is there enough of a price break there to where a PSA 9 isn't going to kill you, but a PSA 10 gives you upside? And
Right.
is there enough time to get it graded by PSA if you crack it and submit it and get it back? Probably yes, if you're looking at May or June for somebody to do something in the playoffs, because it's only mid-March, and I think their turnaround time has been really, really good lately, at least for me. So that's a little bit of a like adding extra layers in there rather than just getting the PSA 10. To Gary's point, you could just go, a lot of these just go get the PSA 10 that he's talked about. So love the audience participation. Thanks everybody
Yeah.
in the comments. We appreciate it. We'll come back around into the comments, but let's get to Gary's thoughts on rising stars. I'm super intrigued for Gary, who you think is going to be somebody to potentially buy now and watch over the next couple of years as their star rises.
So let me ask a clarifying question. You did say the next couple of years. Do you want me to focus on guys that will have that playoff run in them the next, 6 to 8 weeks? Or do you want me to focus on hidden gems to search for in the off season because they're, like you said, the stars on the rise?
Well, if you've got guys from both categories, why don't you throw them out with the qualifier behind each one?
All right. So my qualifier is to say there's nothing like super genius or new about the names I'm about to say. It is just that their games and their platforms are rising. They are taking everything to the next level, and it's a blast to see. Like, I don't know. The big news in the trade was Kevin Durant leaving Brooklyn and Kyrie Irving leaving Brooklyn, but Mikal Bridges is taking over Brooklyn and making it his city, making it his team. I read a stat last week that he's scored more points in his first 10 games with Brooklyn than Kyrie and Kevin Durant did combined. And those two guys, like, big shock, boom, they're sitting out games. Like Mikal Bridges was already one of the most durable players in the league, a two-way player, and now he's in a position where they need him to score. And guess what? He can. Like, he is better than Chris Paul's sidekick. He's better than Devin Booker's defensive stopper. Like, he's becoming an all-around stud. And so I think there's a great, like, buying and long-term opportunity in Bridges. Not necessarily right now, but he's one of those buy in November guys, when everybody's they're coming back to the basketball season and most people are thinking, hey, Anthony Edwards, hey, Giannis, hey, LeBron. Well, Mikal Bridges is a star and he's on a team that needs him to score. So
yeah, so go onto your Google calendars or whatever you use,
right,
in August and put a note like search for Mikal Bridges cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Nice ones. Like, you can get some great cards of his in October, November, December. Fantastic cards. And Brooklyn has, like, watch what they do in the offseason. They have a ton of assets and draft picks. They are coming out pretty sweet from the trades they just made. And, I'm sure it was hard to part with the big names, but I guess they still need to get rid of Ben Simmons. But the drama is gone, and they've got these young players that just want to win. Cam Johnson, I would be interested in him if he wasn't so stinking old. Like, he's older than his career.
He's old?
But he's scored. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's older. When I say older, I mean like 26, 27, 28.
Yeah. Okay, so he must have come out as an older rookie then, right?
Yep.
So Cam Johnson, Cam Johnson is a guy whose card value has gone up over the last 30 days because I was just looking at market movers in preparation for the show. And I would agree with you there. I would kind of steer clear of him. I think if you're going to pick Brooklyn, you go with Bridges, or you still can go back to Cam Thomas.
Yeah. What's the deal, man?
This is a thing where, we've talked about this before. Sorry to interrupt your segment.
Yeah.
But like, we've talked about the idea of making money on the same player over and over again. And this is an example of how you can do it. So if you listen to me and you bought Cam Thomas back last August or September, or I think I bought him in May, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. Now you've got, you had to flip him when he put up 3 40-point games, like you had to. So hopefully you did that. But now that then they made the trade. Now he's on the bench. He's behind Spencer Dinwiddie, right? And so, and Bridges. So now it looks like he's totally lost. But if you think about it, his card prices are plummeting again, which makes it a perfect time to buy him because he's not just going to go away. Like he's going to be an asset one way or another. They're either going to work him back into the rotation next year or they're going to trade him. And either way, he's going to score again at the level that he scored at before.
Yeah.
And then you're going to sell his cards again. So I just think you can ride this wave of Cam Thomas. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt your segment because you were mentioning Cam Johnson, and I had to chime in and say, look, I looked at him at marketmoversapp.com. If you want your first month for only $1, use the promo code no offseason, and it'll help you save money. It'll help me make money. Shameless plug. Back to you, Gary.
Yeah, it's interesting that the Cam Johnson has gone up, like you said, in Market Movers, but sometimes you got a context like he was so far down as the seventh man in Phoenix that, would put up a good game every month. But you want other guys that I think have a rising star, rising potential. No surprise, no shock. It's Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is about to have some major games on a big stage for the Knicks in the playoffs. And you could say the same for Julius Randle. But for whatever reason, the card market has not loved Julius Randle no matter what he does. Now, last night he had, 57 points. And there's some players, if they dropped 56 last night, their cards would just be like, boom, boom, sold. Like lots of rookies flying off. If I'm trying to think of a guy as an example. If Jaden Ivey had 56 last night, right?
Right.
But or Jalen Green for that matter. But Julius Randle, I go on and there's like 3 cards sold, and they may or may not have sold during or after that game. Like there's just not a reaction to him like there would be for Brunson if he drops 50 in the Garden in a playoff game against Giannis. That could totally happen. He is the thing about the Knicks that's crazy is they have 3 or 4 or 5 guys that could put up 40 points if you need them to. RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, Emmanuel Quickly. And he used to show off that potential. Josh Hart, like they're going to be a fascinating team to watch in the playoffs because they're hungry. They're playing with an edge. They've won many playoff-like games this season against teams like the Celtics. So I'm like, Jalen Brunson is one of those dudes that he's used to the pressure of the playoffs. He shined last year alongside Luka. It wasn't just ball dominance when Luka's out. He was doing a lot in the playoffs with Luka. I just see, man, if a guy like that performs on that stage and he's got 2018 rookies that are still affordable or you still haven't graded yet, that's a guy that I see as on the rise, not just this month, but this career. So I like him a lot. Another guy that has started to rise in card value, and I'm curious to see what his team looks like in a couple weeks, Memphis Grizzlies, is Jaren Jackson Jr. We're bringing that name back around again. His cards, I'd be curious to see his graph because
go green, go white.
Red Michigan State, baby. Sparty. So didn't they win too? They're in the Sweet 16, right?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. My wife picked Marquette and she went to school in Milwaukee. So that was a hard one for us. But I love the Sparty graduates, at least Jaren and I do. Jaren Jackson and Eric Snow, my 2 favorites.
Love Eric Snow.
Don't love Draymond, but that's a whole different conversation. Jaren Jackson Jr. has started to do this thing in the last month, and maybe this is one of the silver linings of Ja being out, is that Jaren is scoring. And there have been runs in his career, stretches in his career where the three's fallen and Jaren's taking shots and he's playing within the flow of the offense, and he looks awesome. He looks like a franchise player, not just a defensive player of the year candidate. He's looking like the total package again. And I almost hesitate to say it because that means he'll get hurt next week. Like I remember when I first fell for his game a few years ago, he had a stretch of 25, 26, 27 a night for 2 months. And I'm like, this is awesome. And then he was injured for the next year. Dude is just has a ton of talent. And I see him as have an upside. And Memphis is not just a one a one-player show with Ja. They have, if Jaren is that number 2 scorer, I love his potential as an investment long-term. And unlike Cam Johnson, Jaren is still young, 22?
Yeah, he's young. He left Michigan State after 1 year. He's super young.
Right?
He was a 2018 fourth overall pick, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway,
yep.
These are great names. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Jaren Jackson Jr. You mentioned Julius Randle in there, doesn't get the love. But like with Brunson, Bridges, and Jackson, I feel like you should set your calendars to buy them in August, or like Gary said, maybe even like November, December, because those are the buying cycles where the hype dies off quite a bit for basketball for one reason or another. And
yeah,
also look for some of these guys in gem mint grades from grading companies that aren't PSA, because again, that sort of research, now that you can get the bulk value submission of $19 a card, it opens up that additional profit margin that can help you either monetize more or just hedge your bet should the guy maybe not totally pan out, but you can still basically make money off of the play. And those 3 guys are proven, like the guys that you mentioned. Like the thing I like about Brunson, because I know you liked him last year. Like
yep.
Gary and I have been doing shows for a while together, and I remember Gary talking about Jalen Brunson last year when he was with the Mavs and making the playoff run. And I kind of, when I don't love a guy and a guy's just kind of getting on my radar, and this happened with Joe Burrow, by the way. When Joe Burrow made the Super Bowl run a couple years ago, I was in the same boat as I was in with Jalen Brunson last year. I was kind of like, well, let's see him do it again. Like, let's see some consistency from this guy. Jalen Brunson is legit. He's the real deal. I mean, you knew that before I did, but now I can come out and say you were right. Like, and so I feel like he's in the category of what you're saying. He could make a playoff run this year. He could put up 50.
Oh, he should have been an all-star. Jalen Brunson should have been an all-star. Like, I think Tyrese Halliburton is great, but I would have put Brunson in there over him every day.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Greeny Green, because he's been in the comments for a while and he's a loyal audience member. He's given Shoes a bit of confidence in his Drew Timmy play. But then he also came back and said that he bought Cam Thomas. I believe this is a Cam Thomas Contenders auto for $50. Contenders rookie ticket auto for $50. That's down like that. I sold that card for like 150. I sold multiple copies of that card for 150 after his 40 point. And then Greeny Green coming in. I know you don't like Jonathan Kuminga or any other Golden State.
I don't either. Love you, Greeny.
I do agree with Greeny Green here. I think
Jordan Poole.
Kuminga, I don't know if Kuminga rises during the playoffs, but I like him long term. I really do. I think he's a long-term guy. So, and then Brett coming back with Gary. Yeah, I agree. Gary was on Brunson before Brunson was. I agree.
That's right. That's true. Gary. I didn't realize Brunson was player of the year in his senior year or his last year at Villanova. Like he's the other thing you start to notice with these guys, like you at times when you're buying into a player, especially if you're putting some money in, you kind of want to know not just, are they injury prone? Are they on a playoff team? Like, but also, are they a good character guy? And like, at least with like, I hate to say, Ja is a question mark right now. Jalen Brunson, not a question mark.
Right.
There are certain players, Russell Westbrook, question mark, but Giannis, not a question mark. Like,
the stars are aligning for Jalen Brunson. He's in New York. He's playing well. He's a scoring point guard, good character guy, as you say. All right. So Gary, before we get to the number 1 rookie of the last 3 years, you want to tell us about?
Yes, sir.
And it's not Bol, and it's not Cam Thomas.
It's not Talen Horton-Tucker.
It's not Talen Horton-Tucker. Before we get to that, I want to tell everybody, because we've got some new listeners today, that you can go premium free for a year at nooffseason.com. Check it out. Email me at paul@nooffseason.com to find out how. And if in that email you want to include any feedback on the podcast, I am all ears. Gary, who is the number 1 rookie of the last 3 years. So that would be, just to qualify this, that would be 2020, 2021, 2021, 22, and 22, 23.
So I'm going to break your heart, man. It's not Jonathan Kuminga.
It's not Jonathan Kuminga.
And it's not Patrick Williams. So
did Greeny Green steal your thunder in the comments here? We'll find out in a second.
Okay, here's my
deal. Go ahead and announce it.
Here's my deal. What if we talked about the whole show? We talked about teams and players that have big playoff performances ahead of them that are going to make deep playoff runs this year and maybe for many years to come. Okay, so I'm going to set it up like that. Think with me about the top 4 teams in each conference, okay, that are going to make deep playoff runs. And if I went through each team, I think we would all agree that Boston is going to have playoff runs for the next 5 to 10 years, that Milwaukee is going to have playoff runs as long as they have Giannis.
Neither of those teams have a rookie in the last few years.
Hey. I'm setting you up. I
know. I'm trying to stay with the setup.
That Denver and Philly and Cleveland, right? Some of these teams are going to have playoff runs deep into the next few years. And I want to say, hey, popular, basketball card culture has said the best rookies in these classes are, and I'll rattle some of them off, right? 2020. Oh, it's Anthony Edwards. Oh, it's LaMelo Ball. Oh, it's James Wiseman. Well, Wiseman, no. LaMelo injured again on a non-playoff team. Anthony Edwards on a maybe playoff team is day-to-day, and they still don't have an identity with Karl Towns and Rudy Gobert. The next year, 21, who are we talking about? Cade Cunningham? I mean, sorry, like injured again on a non-playoff team. I can't put a lot of confidence in him or Jalen Green, or who's the other guy? Okay, I love Evan Mobley. That might be a different conversation, right? But he's got to start scoring more. The next year, we're talking about Paolo going nowhere on a non-playoff team, right? For who knows how long. Jabari Smith finally made a basket last week. We've got players in these rookie classes that are either not performing, they're injury prone, or they're not anywhere near the playoffs. And so that nails me down to I'm down to maybe 2 players that are on those rosters of the top 4 teams in each conference that are rookies in the last 3 years that have scored 20 plus points a game. So I'm down to 2 guys.
Can I say one of them?
Yeah. You know where I'm going.
Desmond Bane.
Yes. Oh, and let me rule out one more guy. Sorry. Tyrese Halliburton might be the best player of his rookie class. He's awesome, but the Pacers are terrible. They are terrible. And so he has to score at times to keep that team afloat, and he's not going to the playoffs again. So he's awesome. I just feel like I need to say his name. But no, Desmond Bane, and the second guy is Tyrese Maxey. And here he is, the third of a big 3, starting again, averaging more than 24 a game in the last 10 games. Gonna be a playoff run deep in May for the Sixers. James Harden has sacrificed his ego to make guys like Maxey look good. Is he a big shot baller? Absolutely.
He is.
So there you go. Oh, I want that card, dude. I'm actually got a few Origins autos in my, and you guys already know I love Tyrese Maxey. It's been no secret. He and LeBron and Darius Garland are my big 3. But Tyrese Maxey is all the things we've talked about other players, big performances ahead of him, good character guy. Can he score? Does his team believe in him and give him the ball in big moments? All those things. Yes. Yes to Maxey. So I think right now, because of the playoff runs ahead of him, he's the best pick of the last 3 rookie classes.
I just want to say, when you texted me this last night in preparation for the show, the text from Gary says, and it's the last item on our agenda, and ... why Tyrese Maxey is the best card investment of the last 3 rookie classes. Smiley face, thumbs up emoji. It made me so happy because I have been buying Tyrese Maxey for the last several months. I have been investing in Tyrese Maxey. I have been telling Sports Card Strategy Show listeners why they should buy Tyrese Maxey. We are 100% locked and loaded, aligned on this. And it seems like the audience is too,
He's
with
awesome.
some of the comments that are coming in. So Gary,
He's so
great
good.
analysis, great call.
He's so good. Last week I went to the Cavs-Sixers game, and I was rooting for the Cavs. But just as a prank, I wore my Tyrese Maxey jersey. He drops 5 threes. He made a 3 with like a minute 10 left, and the whole place just went like, dude is clutch. And the Sixers go to him. If it was something where James Harden wasn't getting him the ball, then I'd be like, okay, let's pause on the Maxey love. But they want him to shine. Doc Rivers wants that kid to be a star, and he is. So
yeah, and
that's my guy.
The icing on the cake with Maxey is that, you know, you start to see him a little bit in some commercials. Like he's in a weird soda commercial. Like it's a competitor to Sprite. I can't think of the name of it, but anyway, it was a Super Bowl ad, and he's just like in it at the end, staring up at the Jumbotron. And I don't know, it's like those kinds of things where they're little indicators that we're not the only ones that are noticing Tyrese Maxey. And I think that's a big deal, because as soon as ESPN and all the mainstream media starts to feature Tyrese Maxey, the other thing I look at from time to time in the card market is when ESPN or TNT or TBS is previewing upcoming games, they choose a player's headshot from each team to sort of feature in their graphic. And I've started to notice that, like, you'll see Anthony Edwards, you'll see guys like Maxey, and if they choose a guy like Maxey over Embiid, or, you know, just an example, right? That is a kind of indicator that the media, the mainstream media, is taking notice of a guy that the card market knows. And so that the player still has to perform. But I think what that means is when the player starts to perform, the media is ready to jump on that. And that definitely helps the card prices spike. So Greeny Green has a couple of has a couple of questions, but I do want to I want to get to that. I want to give Gary a chance to add anything he wants to add. And then before you all leave the show, I've got my play that I think will make you guys a lot of money if you're willing to do it. But before we get to my play,
sure.
Greeny Green says Maxey always smiling, and Greeny Green's question back to the I guess a collateral benefit of a Wembanyama. This is a great question. He says, do you guys think the cards will go up for the team that drafts Wembanyama? So, like Gary mentioned this earlier in the show, if the Pistons, let's use the Pistons as an example, because they're my team, and I hope they get Wembanyama, and I think that if they draft Wembanyama, they should move on from Boyan, and they should start Wembanyama at the 3, and they should go with Wiseman, either Isaiah Stewart or Duren at the 4-5 combo, and then Wembanyama. So you get the bangers. Let Wembanyama play the 3, the wing, and then go Ivy and Cade. That would be a hot starting lineup, young starting lineup for my Pistons. But then the question becomes, to Greeny Green's point, do all of the players' card values go up for the team that drafts Wembanyama? Gary, what do you think?
For your sake, I hope it is Detroit.
Thank you.
Do all the players go up? The obvious starters, I think gradually. I think there's just going to be such a Wembanyama hype that people are going to be buying Wembanyamas.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's my take too.
Cade cards will go up because he's Cade. The Spurs fascinate me because they've got a couple of young talents that may never matter in the playoffs, but if they get Wembanyama, they will, like Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson, and even Malachi Branham lately. They've got some scorers that if they put a franchise player in the middle of that thing with a coach like Popovich, that's going to be fun to watch.
That's true.
I want to apologize publicly to Evan Mobley, because in a month he could be the best rookie of the last 3 classes, depending on what he does. And I love Desmond Bane as much as anybody, but I think he has deferred a lot of the offense in Ja's absence to Tyus Jones and Dylan Brooks, which isn't necessarily a bad move, but Desmond Bane, like you said, has as much going for him as Maxey. It's just a matter of the opportunity in front of him, and Maxey is the man taking that opportunity. So I sort of rabbit trailed a little bit, but
that's okay. I think you need to publicly apologize to Scottie Barnes, because I don't think you mentioned his name. I know you don't.
I think Scottie Barnes sucks. in comparison. Sorry, I don't get the hobby love for him. I don't get what I mean. I get why he was rookie of the year because he had a big year, but he's like the 5th or 6th best player on his team, and some reason we're still talking about him like he matters. I'm going to take heat for that in 3 years when he eventually throws a jump shot, but I don't think he matters right now.
I think he does matter. I think he can play all 5 positions, and he can put up triple doubles.
Paul, we're supposed to agree on everything. What's going on right now?
No, we're not. We're supposed to disagree.
That's why it's fun, right?
I know.
So I think Scottie Barnes is crap. I would not invest in his cards, and I would have sold them 6 months ago.
That's exactly why I brought him up, because I needed to get you fired up. And you left him out on purpose, so I need to give him some love.
Well, some of it's too, like we talked about. Somebody mentioned Maxey smiling all the time. Who's never smiling? Scottie Barnes. Like he's in conflict with his team. What's the deal, man? You're not getting along with OG or with there was one other player, Thaddeus Young. Like there's some internal stuff going on. Toronto doesn't have an identity, so some of it maybe it's not Scottie's fault. Maybe it's just a team that doesn't know who they are, and they're tired of the whole roster being involved in trade rumors. That team should be one of the best in the East, and they're not. So maybe some of that is like poisoning Scottie's potential.
Scottie hasn't even had his coming out party yet. Scottie's going to be a great NBA player. Gary,
what is it with you and guys that haven't played well yet, like Kuminga and Scottie Barnes?
Buy low.
You're going really low.
Where's Jalen Suggs at?
Overpay low.
Buy low on Jalen Suggs. Hate it. Let me know in the comments.
Man, Bones Highland, right?
Bones, buy low.
There are those players. I think that's the risk of prospecting. Some guys that just get buried on the depth chart. And I got people messaging me like, hey, maybe we should buy Markelle Fultz now. I'm like, are we really talking about one of the 4-point guards on the Orlando Magic right now?
I know.
Are you really?
I know.
Toronto has so many players. What are they doing, man? I think Scottie Barnes could be good. Don't hear me saying that Gary thinks Scottie Barnes isn't talented.
Don't backtrack. You said Scottie Barnes sucks.
In comparison to the guys we're talking about, like we're talking about Tyrese Halliburton, Maxey Green
says, Greeny Green says, I'm with Gary unless Barnes turns into mini Giannis. I don't see the value. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I think Scottie Barnes will turn into mini Giannis.
Come on.
Absolutely. Let's go, Gary.
Oh, dude.
Let's go.
The guy that should have won Rookie of the Year last year was Evan Mobley. He's 1,000 times better than Scottie Barnes.
Says the man with the Cleveland Cavs jersey on.
Exactly. But he's on a team that knows who they are and gets him the ball. Like Evan Mobley way over Scottie Barnes if we had to do it again.
Gary's wearing a Kyrie.
I am. I got it at a thrift store for $5. I had to. This is the jersey Kyrie hit the shot in.
Flip it.
I'm like, even though I hate Kyrie right now, you said flip it?
Flip it for 10.
I could probably get 12. Probably get more for it.
Love it. All right. So Brett says, I want to chime in on the Wembanyama thing. So Brett says other stars on the team might increase. Could just be a brief bump, though. I totally agree. I think what intrigues me that I've thought about is Charlotte. So then you'd have LaMelo and Wembanyama as basically the only 2 players worthy of even thinking about in that entire franchise, and that could be interesting. But anyway,
you just wrote off your Michigan State guy completely. Miles Bridges, is he done?
Well, where is he
retired yet?
Is he even in the league? I don't even think he's on the team.
There've been rumors that he might come back even the last few games of the season. I'm not kidding. Maybe that was an Instagram meme, but he's still a dude.
Buy low. Okay, if you see news, I'm going to say right now, if you see news that Miles Bridges will for sure be coming back to the NBA, I don't care what team, go buy his silver prism.
Right.
It's a 2018 rookie.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you like better players, go buy Miles Bridges silver prism.
Unless you like better there are not many better players than Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges as a player is amazing.
He's so fun to watch.
As a human, he was amazing. He proved a little bit otherwise with his mistake, but hopefully he can rebound. We wish everybody well here at the Basketball Card Strategy.
We do. Even Kuminga, even Barnes.
I don't know. I
Cam Thomas. I hope Cam Thomas gets to play.
I don't think Gary wishes Kuminga or Scottie Barnes well.
It's not Barnes' fault that he's not good. It's just
We'll see. This is why we love each other here. Okay,
That's
so
right.
Gary, how do you feel about me helping everybody listening make some serious money?
Let's do it.
Okay. Got to give a shout out to Chad Gill just for inspiring me to do this. But in my deep dive, I have found some gems. For example, I just bought this Michael Jordan 1992 Upper Deck card, which is very hard to find in a gem mint grade. I made an offer. You can see the subgrades here. For those of you listening on Spotify or Apple, this is a HGA 9.5. So this has 9.5 corners, 9.5 edges, 9.5 centering, and 9 surface. Part of the reason why I probably got a deal on it, but good chance that I can crack this slab and submit to PSA for a PSA 10. It will be in a bulk submission that I've already planned for. So there's no additional cost other than the $19 grading fee here for me on this card. It was listed at $59.99 or best offer. I submitted an offer for $40 that got accepted. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Why did I submit an offer for $40? And really, and if that offer would have been declined, I probably would have gone back and just paid the $59.99. Why? Here's why. Go to sportscardinvestor.com and go to the PSA 10 of this card. The PSA 10 of this card consistently sells for between $185 and $200. So I'm $40 into this card. I'm going to be $60 total into this card. When it comes back, not if, but when it comes back as a PSA 10, I will have a card that will sell for, let's say, $175, probably worst case scenario, because this is Michael Jordan. Do the math on that profit. Take out the eBay fees, whatever. I'm profiting. This is an easy $120 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Should we not just be rinsing, and repeating on this kind of play? Like, I know we talk about all the stuff we talked about on the show with who could do this, who could do that. Could Scottie Barnes and Jonathan Kuminga be good? Could they suck? What's going to happen? Miles Bridges? Or should you not just go do stuff like this over and over and over again and make a ton of money to either fund your PC, pay off your mortgage, whatever floats your boat, reinvest in more cards, buy a new car, take your family on vacation, donate to charity, whatever, right? But I mean, to me, this is probably what I'm going to be doing. And when you think that there's just a ridiculous amount of Michael Jordan cards, and we know how hard it is to get a gem mint grade from, say, the late 80s through the mid 90s on a lot of these cards. And I mean, we talk about Michael Jordan being a guy that's kind of untouchable in the card market, like in terms of being high floor, low risk kind of a guy. Should we not just be scouring the thousands of Michael Jordan cards here on Sports Card Investor and trying to find cards that were submitted to lower tier but respectable grading companies, cracking and submitting to PSA? What do you think, Gary?
I agree 100%. And part of this is because the name and the reputation and the career of Michael Jordan is at the very top of all time. And yes, everything you said is correct. I had this thought about a week ago too, because my son has started doing a similar approach with Jordan shoes, buying classic Jordan shoes, new or still in the box. You can find them at good deals on eBay and flip them for twice what you paid through some of these online shoe selling apps. So I'm like, why am I not doing that with cards and PSA 9 or 10s of other, like, yeah, absolutely, Paul, you're right. And so I've actually looking at my collection and investments going, I'm missing a big opportunity. We might have missed it by collecting or investing in anybody else other than Michael during seasons like this. There was a time 2 years ago where I'd say, like, everything Michael is overpriced. Well, now it's like, dude.
Now it's the perfect time now. And I don't think we missed it. And here's why. I think that I thought about this as I was walking around the Nash-Annol. I was thinking, you know what? In 2021, think of all the cards that were submitted to SGC. Think of all the cards that were submitted to HGA. PSA nobody was submitting the PSA because PSA didn't want people
backlog.
submitting.
Yeah.
And so what that means is there's a ton of these slabs waiting for people to buy them now, like the one I just showed on my screen, the HGA 95 Jordan 92. Nobody gives a crap about that card. Nobody cares about a 1992 Upper Deck base number 23 Michael Jordan card. But they care enough to buy it in a PSA 10 for $185. And think of all the people that submitted cards like that in 2021 to SGC and HGA. So I think now we haven't missed it. Now is the time to go do what we've been talking about on the Sports Card Strategy Show with Chad. And there's so many opportunities to do it. I know this isn't the football card strategy show, but the Jerry Rice 1986 rookie card, that in a PSA 9 goes for close to $2,000. There are a ton of SGC and BGS 8, 5s, and 9s floating around for between $450 and $750 on eBay right now. There's a risk there in that the PSA 8 sells for about $250. So you could be all in. You could be all in like $600, including tax and shipping, for a card that's going to get you $250 if you get the 8. But if you get the PSA 9, that's close to a $2,000 card. So there are definitely risks in this game. I want to give everybody that disclaimer. But I think that there might be more sure bets out there that you guys can go get. So I'd love to know your thoughts on everything we discussed today. I'd love to know your thoughts on the Gary verse, because Brett seems to be familiar with the Gary verse.
Yes, sir.
Siakam. I knew Siakam was Gary's guy. I knew that. That's why
I love Siakam. But again, Toronto is here. Can I
add
this about
Barnes train?
About thinking about cards and players as they move forward? Because a lot of what we do is try to project. Some teams know how to handle young players and empower and develop them, and some teams are confused and not doing that so well. And I'm concerned when you rattle off all the talented names in Detroit, like Jalen Duren, crazy talent. Is he going to get developed, or is he just going to be shuffled through the Isaiah Stewart, James Wiseman, Victor, if they get him, like all these big men, he'll never fully develop unless he has the opportunity. Yeah, Marvin. What? But I watch other teams, just going to call out Oklahoma City. They seem to know that with Jalen Williams, they have a stretch 3 who can do all the things. And he's the rated rookie I'm shopping for in this year's Donruss or this year's class, because A, he's scoring a lot and does a lot with the ball, plays great defense, but B, because he's on a team that is featuring him and not jerking him in and out of the lineup all the time. Like a team that's going to develop this kid and say, look, you're right up there with SGA and Josh Giddey as a part of our foundation. Go for it, buddy. Like, empower these young guys. Don't confuse them like they do in most of the franchises in the league. You know, so that being said, that's a thing. Like when could Darius Garland be just as a wasted talent as Jalen Suggs? They might be the same. They might have the same potential. Yet one, he has to play point guard for the foreseeable future. Suggs, who knows if he'll ever get the chance to carry a team and play through the growing pains of being a young point guard in the league beyond like 2 games in a row. So some of this is watching guys develop and knowing that it takes some time, and will they ever get that time? Sorry, I just went on a long diatribe about player development, but I like Jalen Williams and any other guys who are in a lane that they can just run in with a team that develops them like OKC or Memphis does.
No, I love it. So a couple things need to happen. So thank you, Brett.
What did Brett say?
He says, great play. Depends on the risk tolerance and how good you are at cracking a slab. Lots of PSA 10s waiting to be cracked and resubbed. I agree. So I often wonder, Brett, why doesn't the guy who's trying to sell me the Jerry Rice BGS 9, who's convinced it's a PSA 9 and he's trying to sell me on that for like $1,000, why doesn't he just do that? And I think Brett answered that question in a way, because I do think there's a lot of people out there who just feel safe with it in the slab and want to sell it. I'm the type of person, I want to crack that MFer and because I know how to crack a slab. And if you don't know how to crack a slab, email me at paul@nooffseason.com, and I'm going to show you a great video that our guy Chad Gill put together for our premium members at No Off Season. And another thing that needs to happen before we sign off today is Gary and I need to meet up at a card show. We need to meet each other face.
We need to do this at a card show.
We need to do this at a card show. I agree. We need to do this at a card show, and then we need to walk around and enjoy each other's company at a card show and meet people. So all of you listeners, email me at paul@nooffseason.com or cards_hoops on Twitter is Gary's.
I'd rather Instagram at hoops and cards. Probably the best. DM
Instagram
me.
So Instagram at hoops and cards. And then Sports Card Strategy on Instagram, or email me at paul@nooffseason.com. What I want to do is I want to know where all of you are and what card shows you go to. And can we not get a little meetup together, a little hoops and cards, basketball card strategy show, audience meetup at a card show? So
seriously,
I can hang out with all of you.
Hey, come to Canton, Ohio, baby. Come to the Pro Football Hall of Fame with us. We've got a show this Saturday. We've got a show twice a month, Paul. And one of them's they're both pretty big. They're not necessarily like huge rooms, but lots of people, lots of regulars. And I think it'd be fun to have you there. So if you ever,
that would be awesome.
Yeah. Plus you could see the Hall of Fame.
Mid-June would be a great time for me to make a trip like that. So let's look at if there's a show around that mid-June time frame.
Totally.
My family's going to go to Spain and visit friends, and I'm staying here in the good old US of A, and I would like to check, it'd be a great time for me to just make a solo trip. So we'll check something out. Everybody, Thanks so much for watching and listening to the Basketball Card Strategy Show. Gary from Hoops and Cards. Gary, do you have anything else you've given so many nuggets? Do you have anything else you want to add for today's show?
I need to go right now, Paul, and fill up my watch list with Jordan HGA 9s.
That's it.
I'm serious. That's a great play. I still think there's, I guess if I'm adding anything, I still think there's buying opportunity in Darius Garland too. Like I don't want to.
Okay.
We mentioned his name once as if he's not still an all-star point guard ready for a deep playoff run, and people not looking at his card values. So yeah, but no, it's been a great show, man. Always great to see you. And thanks for all you do for the hobby and for us to keep us informed and challenged. I love it. Except for the Scottie Barnes takes. I'm good with you. So
you too, man. Kuminga and Barnes forever. Everybody, thanks so much for watching and listening. Have a great day.
Boom. That was a blast, Paul. Are you